going more is not, and like this doesn't, I think a lot of people don't give it the justice it deserves. It is not just going to the gym and doing one extra rep. It's not going on a run and running one extra mile. It's not to do your cardio and doing 5 extra minutes. It can be applied to that, but that's not the foundation of what going more is. Going more is showing up on a consistent, regular basis, and it's when you don't feel like doing it, you still do it. So you show up, you wake up, and you're not motivated, and you count to 3, and it's, I'm not motivated to do this, but I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to keep showing up, whether it takes me 1 day, 1 year, 10 years, a whole lifetime to get to where I want to be. It's going to move me forward.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to It's the Bearded Man podcast with your favorite, the world's favorite bearded man, Bobbbaaaay. Each week with our guest episodes, I try to put the spotlight on someone who can help us stay on track within our personal goals and aspirations. Our guest today is the founder and CEO of Bear Performance Nutrition. He's the host of the Bear Performance podcast, the author of 25 Hours a Day, a US Army Infantry Veteran. He's completed ultra marathons, Ironmans, and sub-3 marathons. This guy's an absolute savage. When I think of him, I think of these 3 words: go one more. Today on the podcast, so honored to say this, Nick Bear.
What's going on,
there he is.
Man?
How we doing?
I'm good, man. You know what? The last time I saw you, I think I was embracing you in a hug as you crossed the finish line of the Go One More half and full marathon here in Central Texas.
Yeah. That photo, I can't even put into words what that photo. There's a photo of me crossing the finish line and like bear hugging you, and that, like they say, a photo, says 1,000 words or 1,000 stories. I forget what the actual quote is, but I can't even put into words. When I got that photo later that night from Miguel, I was just speechless because there was so much packed in that photo, and it was just a full circle moment to be in Austin for the marathon, to have completed such a special event and opportunity. I mean, truly, I would not have been able to complete that marathon, the Boston Marathon, the LA Marathon, if it wasn't for the content you've been putting out and all the stuff that your team helps you build. So that moment was priceless for me, Nick. Absolutely priceless.
Oh, no, I appreciate that because it was intentional. We here at BPN read this book. I think some of the team members started reading this book like a year and a half ago, and then it got passed around the office, and it was called The Power of Moments. And it kind of discusses how you have these experiences in life. And one of the experiences they used in the book was, say, a trip to like Disney World, for example. And if you got back from this trip from Disney World and someone asked you, how was your trip? You would rate it overall based off your experience, but there's these small moments that you'd pull from that trip or that vacation that would really shine through. And there's these moments that are intentionally created by brands, companies, or people to facilitate a response, an emotion. And when I was doing Leadville 100, the 100-mile ultramarathon through the Rocky Mountains this past summer, when I crossed the finish line, there was a guy there that was hugging every single person and putting the medal around their neck as they finished. And that was a very emotional event for me. I don't know if it's because I just spent the last 27 plus hours running through the Rocky Mountains and just embracing some suck, or the fact that I was running across the finish line with the BPN team running with me.
Oh,
that was very emotional for me. And then as I crossed this finish line, I will, for the rest of my life, remember this gentleman embracing me. And it wasn't like a soft hug. This was like, he pulled me in, he hugged me, and then he put this medal around my neck, and my body kind of collapsed into his. And I will remember that feeling for the rest of my life. So with those two, the book and that experience, that was the reason, that was the intent behind the hugs at the Austin Marathon that we did.
Wow. Yeah, I think, and what's beautiful about that is that every person that was there clearly is impacted by you, by BPN, by the entire team. So it was so I get like shivers thinking about it because it's like it is one of the most incredible, powerful moments that I've had because it really was just like this full circle moment of the guy that you got inspired to start running from, and you've been studying his content and learning the ins and outs of how to become a runner, how to become a better mindset individual, how to look at food as fuel instead of this thing that like people have weird relationships with. Like it just really was so amazing. And what I think is amazing is that you could talk to every individual that crossed that finish line that day for the marathon, and I would bet they would have very much similar experiences or feelings. And I know there was a lot of different stories, which I think made the marathon just so unique and just so intimate, I think is the word to describe it. It was just an intimate experience where, if there was 10,000 runners, they wouldn't have been able to have such a close experience with you and the team. And I think it was that perfect number of like 250 runners where everyone felt like a family and felt like they were all together as one, which was just amazing.
Well, I'm grateful, right? I'm grateful. I will always be grateful for the people who have supported my journey, the team's journey, what we're building, what we believe in here. Because when I started this whole business, this journey in 2012, no one believed in me, right? Like no one bought into what I was doing. No one wanted to invest in my mission or my vision. And the beginning of getting started, which is really hard, it's a lonely and solo mission in the beginning. And then when people start investing into what you're doing and you're saying and you're trying to achieve, both with their, not just with their money, but with their time, right? If someone spends an hour watching a YouTube video or listening to the podcast or going on our website or buying a product, I am forever grateful for those people. So I knew that because we made it this intimate experience, and for that marathon, we sold like 200 tickets. And when we launched the website, there were 14,000 people on the website. We sold out of those tickets in seconds. And I knew that the people who were running that marathon, like they when those tickets went live, if they were at work, they probably went in the bathroom and to order those tickets. They left a movie they were watching. They scurried away from whatever they were doing to sign up for that race. And I wanted to make sure everyone that crossed that finish line knew how much I appreciated them for investing time, energy, resources, money into my vision and mission that started nearly 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, props to you. 10 year. I'd seen that in a recent video where you've been talking about this year is the 10-year marker of being in business. And I think what's so clear to me about you is that you are just so authentic and genuine. And I think people not only value the content you create, but I think they see you as a person. And I look up to you more than just as a creator and as a businessman, but as somebody who is doing it the right way. And me and my roommate, Robbie, who I'd flown out there with, Robbie, the tallest man that ran the marathon that day.
He's tall.
He is very tall. We were watching how mindful you were with every person that had lined up the day before the check-in, and you were out there just having honest conversations. And there were people there, part of your team, like reminding everyone, hey, you got to keep it to like 2 minutes because we have to get through this before midnight. And you were just so present. It was just so clear that you were there and that you really were honored to chat with every single individual. And it just speaks so much to why you are where you are and why you attract the talent of the team that I've been honored to, get to know through just social media. Like there's a reason that people want to be part of you because there's other nutrition companies, there are other startups and businesses that people can be part of, but there's something about you, Nick, that is just, it's contagious. The energy, you're just a walking example of somebody that I think from the outside looking in is doing it all the right way while having the time of his life, while leading by example, while just doing it. You're just leading. You're a leader for a lot of people. And one thing that I think is so clear about you is you are a master of building habits. And that's something that I'm obsessed with because I think if you can master habits, you can master anything that you're trying to do in your life. And I know your coach, Jeff Cunningham, says it's better to be consistently good rather than occasionally great, which I love. How do you stay so disciplined with these habits? Because you have done a lot of amazing things. You continue to do a lot of more amazing things, but that consistency aspect is not easy for a lot of people.
Yeah, so I had Cam Hanes on the podcast yesterday.
Just came out, right? Or I saw clips of it, I think, right?
Yeah, we released some clips, but we recorded it yesterday. And I was able to spend some time with Cam, and I read his book, Endure, which was great. And one of the things that we kind of bonded over was this act of obsession and being obsessed with things. And that's how I've been for most of my life, I would say, is I become obsessed with accomplishing a certain skill or race or experience or business or accomplishment or objective. I obsess on it. When I say I'm going to do it, I can guarantee you I'm going to do it. And a lot of that comes down to knowing who I am. And to be honest, like for a long time, I didn't know who I was. Like you're not born with that characteristic sometime. And you see it all the time on social media of people don't know who they are. They're just trying to replicate other people that are out there, not even out of respect, but because they think that's what they want or that's who they want to become. And when you start showing up as your true self for what you actually want to achieve in life, what you actually believe in, leaning on your values and obsessing on the accomplishments that you actually want to achieve, you can show up as your true self. And that's a powerful ability that you don't see very often in the world anymore. And when you come across people who are showing up as their true self and they're obsessing on goals that they want to accomplish, because the truth is no one's ever going to care as much about your goals as you will.
Because they have their own goals.
Exactly. And sometimes it's not necessarily what you're adding onto your life, but what you're eliminating. And that's what's allowed me to really hone in, focus, and obsess on my goals is, and I've learned this through making mistakes and failures, right? I used to think that was, if I want to reach my goal in life, if I want to do this thing, I need to take on more. I need to do more. Well, sometimes it's doing less or taking on less and really focusing on that one thing that's going to get you from point A to point B. And I always say, like, prioritize and eliminate. Prioritize what's important, eliminate what's not, obsess on that goal, and just fucking go.
Yeah, instead of going shallow on a lot of things, go very narrow and deep on those few things. What I think is the key is with eliminating is that you recognize and realize certain things, certain people, certain opportunities that just aren't aligned or just don't help you go deep towards these goals that you have. Are there boundaries or systems that you've built in place that allow you to, like, or maybe they're just mindsets that you live by where you're giving yourself that permission to go, I'm not aligned with this, so I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's gut feeling. I listen to my gut a lot, and that's taken time to refine and hone in on. Every time that I've tried to ignore a gut instinct and go in the other direction or oppose it, it's been the wrong decision. So that's been a really big part of it, is just being mindful of who I want to surround myself with. Do they align with my goals and my values? And I'm a big type of person of first impression is a lasting impression, whether that's a person, a place, or a thing. Sometimes you don't get second chances, and sometimes you're not supposed to get second chances, right? So that's really, like, one of my big focuses is there's not really a rhyme or reason for a lot of it. It's just being mindful, aware, having a pulse, and trusting my gut.
Yeah, that's usually that inner gut of, like, you know what you want to do or you know the direction you should go, but then we start getting these narratives in our mind or these external opinions and that might pull us the opposite direction. And when you keep going back to what that initial gut feeling was of, like, I should go do this or I actually don't want to do this, it's 9 times out of 10, maybe 10 times out of 10 always right.
Yeah, you made the the comment about going deep rather than wide.
Mm.
And I was sitting down with our brand director, Alex Rodriguez, a few weeks ago.
A-Rod.
We were, me and A-Rod, we recorded a podcast with Jordan Utter, our media director. And he made the comment that someone told him years ago that it's better to be focused on digging a well than a bunch of puddles, because I love that analogy, because in many people's lives, I've been there as well, you feel like you need to go broad to cover a lot. So, like if we talk about stacking bricks, like my running coach, Jeff Cunningham, talks about stacking bricks. And a brick is a workout. It is the go one more mindset. It's showing up day in and day out. And in terms of a marathon prep, you knock out your run. You do it disciplined. You hit your splits. You hit your pace. You hit your heart rate. Stack a brick.
Mm.
Day 2, do the same thing. Stack a brick. Stack a brick. Stack a brick. When you stack enough bricks, you build a house. You build a foundation, and you build a house on top of that foundation. What happens for a lot of people is they'll lay a brick over here, and then instead of stacking a brick on top, they stack a brick over there, and then they stack a brick over, over there and over here. And you walk into this room, which is this person's life, and it's this flat floor. There's bricks everywhere. They are one brick high, and they haven't committed to one discipline. There's people out there every day doing this. They jump from one thing to the other, to the other. There's no compounding consistency in that. But what happens when you show up and you stay deep? You are hyper-focused, narrow, and deep. That's when you can build the foundation. That's when you can then build the house on top of the foundation, instead of these scattered bricks that are everywhere just laying around and get kicked.
Yeah.
So I love that analogy of going deep into a well rather than wide into these puddles.
Yeah. It's hard too, because clearly you're at a place in your life where you have very clear direction. So I think it's important in the beginning to stack bricks a lot of random places until you find that thing. But it is a bigger problem where, are you continuously moving on because you're not seeing fast enough results? Then it becomes the patience game. Are you not patient enough to let the results come to life? Or are you in that journey, in that chapter of your life where you're kind of lost and you're trying to figure it out, where it's good to spread your energy across. It's good to try these different things, but at some point you have to recognize, if you want to be great at something, the only way to do that is by consistently stacking those bricks. Like you're saying, if it's with running, every day you're just stacking a new brick on top of that foundation, and now you're building a really strong foundation. But if you continue to spread, you're in trouble.
I really agree with that, because a lot of people will reach out to me and say, how do I find my purpose? How do I find my why, my direction of what I should do in my life? And sometimes people reach out and they want me to tell them what their purpose should be. And my response is, who am I to tell you how you should spend your life? If you truly aren't invested into it and you're not willing or able to obsess on that purpose, it's not going to last very long. So with that being said, it is smart to experience life. Like, go out there and go wide in the beginning. Find what you like. Find what you don't like. Find what you are willing and able to obsess on. Like, what really drives you? Going back to my podcast with Cam yesterday, when he found bow hunting, he was like, this is it. This is where I want to spend my life. When I started BPN, I knew very quick. I was like, this is it. This is where I want to spend my time. And BPN wasn't the first thing I started, though, right? Like, I went wide. I tried these different things. I experienced pieces of life. I wanted to know what I was willing to become obsessed with. But you don't know until you experience these other aspects and directions. But once you find it, and you know, and your gut's telling you this is it, that's when it's like, prioritize, eliminate, all in.
Yeah. And I think sometimes the question people can ask them when they're trying to find that passion or that purpose is, if money's not a problem for the rest of your life, how do you want to spend that time? And when I look back at where you were at probably 10 years ago, I can only see up until 2014 for your YouTube channel. you were already big into fitness. This is like a clear thing that even if you had not started BPN, fitness was very clearly something you were passionate about. So you're going to keep doing that for the rest of your life, regardless of what the money looks like. Whereas I think that can be a good question to ask for people is, if money's not an issue, how do you want to spend that time? And that can give you a kind of a clear direction. It's not going to tell you exactly where to go, but what are those, keeping inventory of those things that you're fulfilled doing, that you get into the flow, you lose track of time, you enjoy it, you're constantly searching and curious to learn more about the smaller details. And then that usually can kind of give you a little bit of a guidance as to where you should be going. But speaking about minor details, before my first marathon, I looked up your first marathon. I was very curious. I was like, where was Nick at? Because I see him where he's at now, 21. This was fall 2021 when I ran the LA Marathon. I'm like, where was Nick at when he ran his first marathon? And I was rattled because in 2018, when you ran this first marathon, the night before, you were out. You had maybe a few beers. You guys went and played Top Golf, and I was like, this is not what Nick would be doing this is not what he's doing before the Buffalo Marathon. And so I'm curious, like, talk to me about how the minor details, the small details, end up making the greatest impact, especially with where you're at today, with your career, with all these fitness challenges. How do the minor details add up?
Well, you realize there's potential somewhere, right? Like when I signed up for my first marathon, just like when I started my business, I wanted to see what this was all about. My first marathon, I ran, I believe, a 3 hour and 57-minute marathon. The year after that, my second marathon was 4 hours, 15 minutes. I got worse. And then I started getting serious about it. And this is a very parallel description of building BPN and training for endurance. Where with endurance, just like my business, you get started, you kind of dip your toe in there, you see what it's all about. You realize you don't know anything, but you have this ignorant confidence going into it. You know you don't know, but you still have this ignorant confidence of, can't be this hard. And then you get humbled very quickly. And part of it is, oh shit, this is hard. I want to, now it's almost like there's some pushback, there's some resistance. Well, I'm going to lean into this. Like now I'm being tested. I want to lean into this and prove to myself what I can do with it. And there's also a little win that you get. Tim Grover has a book called Winning, and he talks about like achieving this first win. And I talk about this a lot because it's so true. You just need to get your first win. And sometimes that first win is just crossing the finish line of a 5K or a half marathon or a full marathon. Doesn't matter what your time is, just cross it. And what happens when you get that first win is, it could even be losing 5 pounds. You have this newfound confidence that builds. Well, now you have this new confidence. You want to achieve another win. But to achieve that next win, there's going to be required more sacrifice, but that next win is going to bring more confidence. And then after that second win, you say, okay, let's see how far I can push this. You go for the third win. With that third win, it builds more confidence, but it requires more sacrifice. And you start stacking these little wins. And what's happening is you're sacrificing more, you're prioritizing your time, you're learning habits, you're learning routine, and you're building this confidence. And then there's almost like it's like a seesaw, or there's this table that flips, and it turns into, okay, let's see where my true potential really lies, where it sits. And then you refine, you refocus, and you make these small variable changes that when they compound over time, make big, drastic results. And that's what endurance has been for me. It's what building a business has been for me. It's these small wins that have required a lot of sacrifice, that have built confidence. And then you get to a point where you think, where is my potential and how do I get there? And then you just push, push, push. And as you're pushing, you're winning, you're sacrificing, you're refining, you're eliminating, you're prioritizing, and it just builds this machine over time. It is not overnight by any means. It is a game of patience, but this consistency compounds into this new life that you never really planned or anticipated on or for, but it just happens.
Yeah. And I think you end up getting so comfortable with being uncomfortable because you're pushing the envelope, right? Like if you're listening and you're going to run your first 5K and you never think you can do it, you go do it and you're like, well, now I'm going to do the 10K. Now everything just scales and grows with it. How I think what can stop people, right? I can get intimidated when I'm following you, Nick. I'm like, this guy, I see him editing at 11:30 p.m. and I see him up at 5 a.m. and then he's running 10 miles and then he's running a full-time business. Like there are times where I have to check myself. I'm like, I'm not Nick Bear. Like I'm not allowed to compare like let him lead by example, but don't try to think I need to be Nick Bear or I have to follow his lifestyle and his routines. You talked about it on this podcast. I think it just came out 2 months ago on Mark Bell's Power Project. You were talking about how comparison is the thief of joy. How have you now? You're at a place now where maybe the comparison doesn't happen as often. Maybe it happened a lot more, especially in those first couple of years of building BPN, and you're trying to navigate this path. But how have you learned to not let the thoughts of comparison truly resist you from actually moving forward? Because that's what a lot of times can happen is that you get so tense and you're looking at where everyone else is at and you're like, I don't even know how to take that first step when I should just be focusing on where am I at and how do I actually move forward?
I've learned to use comparison in a different way, more so for fuel now. So if I look at someone and I always will believe comparison is a thief of joy, and this is the perfect example. If I'm working my ass off, or I think I'm working as hard as I can work, and I see someone else and they're doing more than me, they're pushing harder, they're suffering more, they're willing to be more uncomfortable. I kind of take inventory of what I'm doing, and for any luxuries that I'm experiencing, I almost feel guilty for experiencing those. And I get really down and pissed at myself of, well, fuck, Nick, like if you want to reach your full potential, you need to be doing more. You have to be doing more. Like you're soft right now. And that's a dangerous place to be, not just for yourself, but for the people around you as well. So I'm also a big advocate of create more, consume less, where I would rather focus on creating concepts, ideas, movements with people I really enjoy being around and with, and creating this to impact others rather than consuming a lot of content online, offline, wherever. It's a dangerous place to be. But it typically sparks this negative self-talk to myself, and it drives my wife nuts because she's like, just chill out for a second. Just chill out. But for me, like I spent the last 10 years, just hyper focused building this brand, that I feel this responsibility now of once you spend all this time building something, you don't want to lose it. And you're willing to do whatever it takes to keep it moving forward. But I've never been the type of person that like I look at what someone else is doing and it never restricts me or paralyzes me from moving forward, backwards, left or right. It always sparks this negative self-talk that I'm not doing more, and it makes me want to do more.
Which it can be a positive, right? If it's inspiring you to want to do more within reason, not like you're now not getting sleep and you're like not having the dinner with Stephanie, like you're out just always working. But I think you can utilize that comparison to inspire you to keep going and to push yourself a little bit harder.
It can, but you have to be very conscious of how you shuttle that like motivation or that comparison into what you now need to create. Because like I said, it will affect the people around you, your team, your wife, your family, your kids. It's just being conscious of that.
Quick break from today's episode, and then we'll get right back to it. Today's episode is brought to you by the greatest matcha brand in the world, Tenzo Tea. I have been drinking Tenzo since the top of 2021, and it has been an absolute game changer. You want to know how? I'll tell you right now. Every single day I drink this twice a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. It gives me sustained energy throughout the day. I feel mentally clear. I feel sharp. I feel focused. I don't feel the coffee crash. I also just feel like my body just does better with matcha in it versus caffeine, coffee, excuse me. And it's just been a game changer. It's just a product that I've been using twice a day for over a year and a half. And that's why I've been promoting it for such a long time on this podcast, because I genuinely believe in it. 64% of Americans that do drink coffee every day pay the price with dehydration, jitters, anxiety, and headaches. That's 64%. Switching out the morning coffee for a matcha helps you stay level-headed, focused, and avoid the coffee crash. I personally love mixing my matcha with a little bit of almond milk. It's more of a latte, and it tastes really, really smooth. You can also just mix it with water. It depends on what you're looking for. Each half teaspoon has 36 milligrams of caffeine, so plenty of caffeine to jumpstart your day. I'm a savage. I do 3 scoops every time. It has natural occurring L-theanine, and it switches your brainwaves to be focused and meditative state, which is why it works so good. So if you're interested, head over to tenzotea.co. Use my promo code TheBeardedMan, all one word. That's 25% off your order. Once again, that's tenzotea.co. TheBeardedMan, all one word. This is a product that I will continue to use. I think you guys and gals should give it a try to see if it helps you stay focused, helps you feel energized throughout the day, and helps you just get shit done, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to crush through our to-do list and keep it moving. tenzotea.co, The Bearded Man, one word, 25% off. I hope you enjoy it. Now back to today's episode. I try to, when I do fall for the comparison, I try to just remind myself the only person I should be comparing myself to is who was I yesterday? Who was I 6 months ago? Who was I a year ago? Because then that will be the reminder to me of, look how much growth you've had. Remind yourself that every person's journey is different, and that as long as I'm happy with the small wins that I'm making every single day, like everyone else can have their own different path. I need to just be self-aware of, what does my work life balance look like? What am I willing to give up? There's no right or wrong. You just have to be very self-aware of, like, this is what makes me the happiest. And it takes a little bit of time, and it's that constant inner conversation that you have to have within yourself. But anytime that I've felt resistance of moving forward, the 3 words that you preach so heavily, go one more, are the reminder for me. There are many times since finding you through social media that has become part of my life, in dating, in running, in building my podcast career. Some days I don't wake up and I'm not fully 100% motivated, but I remind myself, just attack the day ahead, go one more. That mindset has become a lifestyle for me. And I know for you, I think from what I can recall, it was purely just like a reminder on your hat brim one time, and it's just evolved into this massive movement. What does go one more to you mean? Or excuse me, what does go one more to you mean? Because I think for every single person, it really can resonate and mean something differently, but all still have the same core message.
Yeah, I'll start off with what it is not. Go one more is not, and like this doesn't, I think a lot of people don't give it the justice it deserves. It is not just going to the gym and doing 1 extra rep. It's not going on a run and running 1 extra mile. It's not, going to do your cardio and doing 5 extra minutes. It can be applied to that, but that's not the foundation of what Go One More is. Go One More is showing up on a consistent, regular basis, and it's when you don't feel like doing it, you still do it. So you show up, you wake up, and you're not motivated, and you count to 3, and it's, I'm not motivated to do this, but I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to keep showing up, whether it takes me 1 day, 1 year, 10 years, a whole lifetime to get to where I want to be. It's going to move me forward. And it doesn't necessarily have to apply to a specific goal or objective, but if you apply Go One More to your life, and you show up every single day. You do the things that you don't want to do. You do the things that you also want to do that are moving you forward. You choose areas in your life to grow and learn and experience, and you just push forward. You help people. You make the right decisions. You make the hard right over the easy wrong, day in and day out, one day at a time. If you apply that to your life, you're going to look back in 20 years and you're going to say, holy crap, I never expected to get here. Because I applied these 3 words to my life. It has completely changed the trajectory of where I thought I was going and where I was going to end up. So going more is meant to literally change the trajectory of your life for the better, rather than just motivating you to do one more rep in the gym.
When have you is there a moment you can recall recently where you had to remind yourself, like there was something you didn't want to do, but you're like, gotta live by it, gotta go one more? Like, is there anything recently that has happened?
Yeah, I mean, like this last couple of months of my life, like Q1 of 2022 has been insane in terms of the amount of things that we're doing with BPN. We're doing a YouTube series right now. We're growing the podcast, building a lot of new projects out. I'm always the person that I say, just when I feel like I'm about to drown in the amount of things that I'm doing, I like throw myself to the bottom of the water. I drown myself. And it's these things though that like I'm working towards, and with amazing people, to create this amazing impact on other people's lives, that it's this responsibility we have as a team, the BPN team does, to show up and keep pushing forward. So even when we're tired and we get home from work at 6 p.m. and we have dinner with our family, and then we go right back to work for another 3 to 4 hours, it's just what we have to do to reach our goals and help other people reach theirs as well. This last quarter has been nuts in regards to just showing up every single day, waking up, being pretty beat down. And it's never a question of, am I going to do this? But it's, you get out of bed, you're tired from the 11 miles you logged the day prior, the long day. And it's just, you count to 3, 1, 2, 3. You go into the kitchen, you make your coffee, you put on your running shoes, you go out the door, and you run. And you do it all over again. But it's just, there's never a question of, am I going to do this tomorrow? It's just, yep, that's what I'm doing. You go one more. You just keep doing it. Consistency for me has paid off in dividends. And when I do something, I'm in it for the long term, the long game. I don't need the short win. I'm here to see changes in 10, 20 years, not 10 to 20 days.
And I think the key is when you wake up on those mornings, you feel overwhelmed, anxious, or just you had a long day yesterday, you have a long day ahead. What I have found is to build that momentum for the day ahead is just taking those small steps. Like, I just need to get out of bed. I need to go walk out and make my coffee. Then I need to answer a couple of emails. It's looking in the short term. What I just have to do right now, not what's on the day ahead, because that's when you get overwhelmed. That's when you get anxious. That's when the emotions start getting you. But what's the next step? They talk about it like if you're trying to get into fitness, don't think about getting to the gym or the workout you have to do. Just get your running clothes out and put on your shoes, then drive to the gym, then do your first set. Like those, when you look at it from that micro step perspective, I think it just helps you stay consistent and helps you stay disciplined because it doesn't feel as overwhelming.
Well, that's what's cool about these like 100-mile races, right? Is if you go into a 100-mile race and mile 1, you're saying 99 miles left. Mile 2, 98 miles left. Mile 3, 97 miles left. That's going to be a long day, but you focus on the mile you're currently in.
Yes.
Hey, let's just get through this mile. Let's just get to that ridge over there. Let's just hump across that mountain there. You just take 1 mile at a time, and you don't think about mile 100. You just, before you know it, you're at mile 20, you're at mile 40, you're at mile 60, you're at mile 80. Oh crap, I got 20 miles left.
Yeah.
Mile 100.
Yeah. It takes a little bit longer than just speaking out like that for those 100 miles. I don't know how you do it, you savage, but those are epic just seeing from afar.
They hurt.
I'm sure they do. And in your YouTube intro video, you say you can go really fast alone, but you can go so much further together. What is one strength and one weakness that you have as a leader?
I'd say one strength, it'd be being a visionary and developing others. So one thing that I can confidently say in being aware of myself is I've learned over these past 10 years to trust my vision, trust my gut, my vision of where to steer the trajectory of the brand. That is my goal, is to steer the trajectory of. And I do this by not micromanaging people, but empowering people. And when you empower people and you give them guidance and feedback, that develops them as an individual, as an employee, as a leader within their own organization or micro-organization or department. So I'd say that's my greatest strength, is the ability to provide clear vision and empower team members to develop their own skills in their teams. Weakness, I would say, is taking on too much individually. So one thing that I'm still trying to work on as a leader in a business is maintaining that offset perspective. And I like to paint the picture of, like, say there's a battle in Afghanistan and an infantry platoon goes in and conducts a raid on this village. And they go into this village, and it's loud, it's messy. There is dust flying everywhere. You can't see room to room. You are in the weeds, and you have no clue when you're in there what the next house looks like, what the village looks like, where the people are at across that village. So what do? They send a helicopter up in the sky to get big picture perspective that then can paint the picture to the people on the ground, where to maneuver, where to go, what it looks like, what's happening. My job as a leader is to be that helicopter, to have perspective, to steer people and paint a picture of where we're going through vision. And that's one thing I do well at, but I make the mistake sometimes of taking myself from the air to the ground and getting in the weeds. And that doesn't help the team.
Wow.
Even though in the short term, I think it does. It hurts the team because then they lose perspective. No one now has eyes on this battle. No one has eyes on this village. And now you're all just seeing dust. You don't know where to move next. You don't know where to maneuver. It's kind of a nightmare, right? So sometimes my strengths and weaknesses, they play off of each other. They kind of complement each other. But that's one thing that I'm really trying to do. And ways to solve for that is you have to keep empowering people and hiring talent density. Keep, as your organization grows, keep bringing people on that can take on that responsibility, and then maintain that line of communication to you as you hold perspective.
Wow, that's a great analogy. Does it get difficult as the business grows? You're always the visionary, but your vision really impacts the daily decisions you guys are making now, where you're planning out 6 months. You're probably I don't know how far in advance now you are. You might be 12-month planning. Whereas in the beginning, it's kind of like this, you're this inner gut, trusting the next product. And then, we're going to try it in 2 months or 3 months. But now you have to think so far in advance because of just the scale of the business and product development taking 1-2 years. Is that difficult? Because you're essentially going to make a decision today that might not impact you until the fall of 2023 or early 2024. And that, to me, outside looking in, can seem pretty overwhelming. But clearly, once again, reminding myself that you've been in this game for a long time. So it's just built with time that you've learned how to do this correctly.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's difficult. So like right now I plan 2 to 3 years out.
Wow.
That is my job, is to plan 2 to 3 years out. What I found that happens to that process is it's not necessarily difficult, but it slows you down and it requires more backwards planning. So when you're smaller, you can be more nimble and you can pivot from one thing to the next. And, we'll do a product launch here, and then we'll plan content for next week there. And then, hey, we're going to make a quick trip and we're going to go film this with this person there. And, you're very nimble when you're a smaller team. As you grow the organization and you're planning 2 to 3 years out, and now you're backfilling the calendar from 2 to 3 years out, you don't have the ability to be as nimble. You can still be nimble, and you have to be able to pivot as a business. But when you're working on something that isn't going to be launched for 6 to 12 months, and you're backwards planning to fill in that calendar, you start locking in more time. And when you start locking in time, you don't have necessarily all the flexibility anymore to pivot from one thing to the next.
Wow. Yeah. Not easy to do, but like I said, I guess it's just purely just from your learning as you go, and that this is what you built yourself to. These are the decisions that you're supposed to be making as the leader and the CEO of the company.
I think it's really important to kind of mention that the only way to make this happen is with a team.
Yes.
And as you grow, the hiring process becomes so important, because you have to hire people who, you don't have to, but it helps. And that's what we've done here. Is there's people that work at BPN that are almost as invested in the brand, in the mission, as I am. And they treat it like it's their own. So when you hire the right people and you empower them and they take full responsibility, it makes the job a whole lot easier.
You trust them.
But you trust them. But as you grow and scale, if you don't hire the right people, it all falls apart.
Yeah.
So I by no means, I will always take credit for starting BPN. I will never take credit for scaling BPN.
Yeah. It's very clear. And I could tell when I was there for the marathon that everybody's invested, that it is something so much bigger. And it was almost really interesting to hear how some of the individuals ended up working for the company. And it's just so clear. It's so clear that everyone there is very much happy to be there, is part of the bigger mission. I think that's what separates really the most successful companies in the world, is that they're able to find that talent that really do bring skill sets, but also when you're not looking, they're working just as hard, and you treat them, from specific examples that I know, you treat them the way they want to be treated. And I think it's a win-win for both people.
There's a book that I recommend that I'm reading right now. It's called No Rules Rule, and it's from the Netflix team, and it talks about Netflix's work culture and strategies and practice. Very interesting, but they focus on hiring talent density and building that culture. And when you build the culture the right way with talent density, you can pull back on controls that you'll typically find in corporate America, like PTO or expense reporting, allowing people to make decisions all across the business, kind of a modified chain of command. It's a really good book, and I highly recommend it.
Wow. Yeah. And I think that's probably why they're operating the way they do, is because people they feel trusted. I think a lot of people are seeing that from the whole work from home lifestyle that kind of happened over the last 2 years, is that you have to trust your employees. You're not over there to oversee them. So they have to be getting their work done. And I think there's a balance of, like, if your employees are getting the work done and you're showing them, where they need to go and what these things are, then I think it's kind of that trust, but then also the ripple effect is that they get things done timely. Coming up on June 10th, I know is going to be a big day for you. That's going to be 3 years since your mother passed away from cancer. We just had Mother's Day 2 weeks ago, which I would imagine is a pretty emotional time for you. You're about to be a father in the next probably couple weeks. What is a lesson your mother taught you that you hope to then teach your daughter?
The main thing I learned a lot from my mom. So my family, it's me, my brother, and Preston works with us here at BPN. My dad, my mom. Mom passed away from ovarian cancer 3 years ago. Me and my mom were the same person. My dad and my brother, they are the same person. Me and my mom are very similar. And my mom, she grew up in central Pennsylvania, and she was the supervisor of special education. She taught life skills. She coached Special Olympics. She found her passion very early on in life, and that passion was helping kids, helping students, specifically with in special education with learning disabilities. But she loved it. She
Mm.
loved every moment of it. That's why she went and coached Special Olympics. She would help needy families in our local area. Like, my mom loved helping people, giving back. She never did it for any sort of like recognition. My mom wasn't on social media blasting like, here's what I'm doing. I'm coaching this. I'm raising money for this. She just did it, and she just did it
Mm.
in a very humble way. And I watched that growing up. She never had to teach me how to do that. I just observed and watched this. And I watched my mom pursue her passion. And I didn't really realize this for the longest time, but then, I found BPN and the fitness space and building a team, and I was so passionate, and I'm so passionate about it still. But looking back and kind of connecting the dots, I'm so grateful that I was able to find my passion like my mom found her passion early on, because a lot of people don't find that ever or until later in life.
Mm.
But I watched her find that passion and truly fulfill it until the day that she died. And that's what I've learned from her the most, just watching that and living that.
Mm. I can for sure say that I'm sure she'd be very proud of what you've become as a person, and also the impact that you have been on all the people that follow you, consume your content, take your products. You're definitely a teacher in many ways. So it's been an honor for sure to learn as much as I have from you. So she damn well raised a very good son. I'm sure your father deserves some of the credit as well, but your mother did her role in raising a great son.
And I appreciate that. And it's like one of the things I think about now is, our baby girls due early July. Steph's like right over, I think she's today, I believe today, 33 weeks pregnant.
Wow.
And I am now starting to shift my mindset, because my morning runs, for example, have always been my moment of solitude in the morning, where I think about these business decisions. I think about, uh, creativity and what I want to build and where I see my life in the future. And it's just my moment where there's no distractions and
Mm.
I can just do some deep work. And it used to be thinking of these business ideas and these concepts, and it's shifted now as we get closer to this baby girl being due. It's shifted more so of what kind of father do I want to be? What do I want to teach this baby girl? Uh, how are we going to raise her? Like, what are the values we want to instill? How do we want to instill these values? And that's where my mind's been now, is just like everything else I do in my life, I obsess on it. Now I'm obsessed on like, how do I become the best father possible without like helicopter parent, or like, how do I become the best father possible to set her up for a life of success? Now, I understand and realize that this comes down to her when she's old enough making the right choices, but what can I teach her through experiences, through conversations, through anything in life that will allow her to make the right decisions to succeed? So that's where my mindset, my morning
Wow.
runs, my solitude now have been spent on that.
It's a good time. Also enjoy those morning runs, because I think we might get a little disruption with a little baby cry at 2, 3 a.m. So it might be a little bit of a change. But if I know anything to be true about you, Nick, I'm sure you're going to be able to adjust, and you're going to do whatever is necessary to set her up to success and make sure that she has everything that she could ever ask for.
That's my goal, man. That's what I'm shooting for.
I'm sure you're going to do great. Before we get into the final questions, I have one question come in from TikTok that I wanted to ask. This is coming from Katie. She said, how can I avoid burning out as a hybrid athlete, lifting and running with some occasional swimming and cycling?
It comes down to like volume acclimation and
Mm.
accumulation. So for a lot of people, like if you look at my training right now, it took me 10 years to be able to accumulate this much training volume. When you first start training, maybe you're doing a little bit of running, maybe you're doing a little bit of lifting, and volume is generally low. Volume in terms of like how much of it you're doing. Volume can be measured in terms of time spent during the week, sets, reps, weight. Start generally with a low amount of volume. And over time, it should be like this scale where year 1, year 2, year 3, you're slowly able to ramp up training volume and accumulate more and handle more and recover more efficiently. But start generally with a lower amount of volume, and over time, a gradual time, ramp that up. And auto-regulate training. Like, I'm a huge fan of auto-regulation in terms of just because if you're not training for like anything specific, like a race, if you plan to do a 10-mile run on Saturday, but on Friday you feel trashed, it's okay to modify that schedule and not do the 10-mile run. Listen to your body, allow it to recover, and then over time ramp volume up.
So crucial, because anytime you push it and your body hates you the next day, it's like you just screwed yourself up for the next 3 to 5 days. Where had you taken that slower approach and truly listened to your body and giving it what it needs, you'd be able to continue to run and probably hit that 10-miler a couple of days later. So I think that's super, super important. Final questions for you.
It's also easier said than done.
Yeah,
I will say that as much as I love to say that, I also don't always practice it. I beat myself up pretty well.
I know that to be true about you, Nick. I know that for a fact. So that does not surprise me. But I think for most people listening, definitely listen to your body. Nick probably won't, but he has different circumstances and a different playbook that he's living by that I completely admire. Final question for you. These are one or go ahead. You got anything to say? I don't want to cut you off.
I was gonna say, we did a 22-mile workout with my coach Jeff Cunningham like 2 weeks ago, and going into that workout, we were supposed to hit 6:20 minute per mile paces. We showed up that morning, and it was super humid. It was super hot, and Jeff said, "Hey, today, based off of the weather, we're just gonna do like 6:30, 6:35 minute per mile pace." I was like, hell no. Like, on the schedule, it says 6:20s. So during the workout, he was in the truck driving next to me. He kept saying, just pull back, just pull back. I said, okay. And I'd say, okay. And I'd hit 6:16 mile, 6:17 mile. He's like, damn it, Nick. Easier said than done.
Oh God, you're an animal, Nick. You truly are. Final 5 questions. These are just one sentence answer. These are the stay on track cues. Question number 1: what's the biggest hurdle you've had to overcome in the past month?
Balancing my wife being pregnant, prioritizing my personal goals, and prioritizing this pregnancy and my wife at the same time.
Tough. Question number 2: you could go back and tell yourself one piece of advice at any point of your life. What would it be and when?
It would be 2013. I was in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, at a bar in between years or after college, and I walked in this bar. This is more than a sentence, but
no, you got it.
Walked into this bar, and I just started BPN, and these kids that graduated the year before me were in there, and they were chanting BPN. And I walked in, and I thought they were kind of cheering me on at first. They were chanting BPN, but they were making fun of me. They were making fun of me because I started this company. I was putting myself out there, filming like videos and trying to make something for myself, and they were kind of mocking me. And that crushed me. I'll never forget that. And if I could tell myself anything, it'd be that doubt is only dangerous when you start doubting yourself, because throughout your lifetime, there will be a lot of people that doubt you. And sometimes you will be the only person that doesn't doubt yourself. But that doubt is only dangerous. It only affects you when you start believing it and you start doubting yourself.
So important. I don't think they're chanting anymore. And if they are, I'd love to know what they think of where BPN is now. Question number 3: what's an area of your life you need to put more effort into?
I'd say family time, to be honest.
Okay. Question number 4. First step anyone can take to get back on track of their goals if they've fallen off course.
Then you got to make a list. You have to take inventory and stock of your life. And that list is, what are your priorities and how do those priorities align with your goals? And then on the other side of that list is, what are all the things you're doing right now that do not feed your priorities and your goals? And start figuring out what you can eliminate that doesn't make the priority list. Because as you eliminate each one of those things, it's going to move you one step further towards your goals. Sometimes it's not what you're adding on to your day, it's what you're taking away from.
It's the truth. 5th and final question for you. Somebody's listened to the last 57 minutes of this podcast. What is one challenge you have for the listener after they finish listening to this podcast today? Any challenge?
I'd say commit to something really hard. Even if you don't care about being a fast marathon runner, you don't care about being the best ultra marathon runner in the world, you don't care about hitting a certain PR in the gym, commit to it. Like, write it down right now, put it into the world, make a video and post that video. Say, at this point in my life, I'm going to achieve this. Put it out into the world, because what that's going to do is it's going to hold you accountable, and other people are going to see that and hold you accountable and start working towards it then. But you got to commit to something, even if you're not ready. Here's the thing with people running marathons. I hear it all the time. Like, hey, we're doing this marathon next year. We're all signing up. You want to sign up with us? No, I'm not ready. I'll start training like in a year after I start running a little bit. Dude, just commit right now and then force yourself to get started. Life's not right. Like, I got to lose 5 more pounds and my dog died last week. Like, just commit to it and then make a plan on how to get there. The first 2 steps. And guess what? Like I said, even if you don't want to run a crazy fast marathon or hit a PR or no matter what it is, you are going to learn so much of that process. And that process is going to teach you the skills that you need to implement to make the right habits that establish a routine. And once you learn that, like, oh, I committed to this. I made a plan. I made a routine, which instilled habits, and I accomplished that. Now it's just rinse and repeat.
Yeah. Any target, any goal that you have. I
target.
Literally did that with the Go One More Marathon. I signed up. I never completed a marathon. I was a month out from running the LA Marathon, and I was laughing. I said, I have 2 marathons in the next 4 months, and I've never completed one. But I'm going to find a way. I'm going to put it on the calendar. I'm going to reverse engineer, and I'm going to do what is necessary to make sure that I can accomplish both. And it happens. You have to come up with a timeline. You need to put it on the calendar, reverse engineer the steps, and you'll find a way to accomplish whatever that goal might be.
That's like the girl that crossed the half marathon, the BPN marathon. Her husband, all he wanted to do for his birthday was run the Go One More marathon, half marathon. And she said, well, if it's for your birthday, I'm not going to miss it. I'm going to sign up too. And she wasn't a runner. So she trained for a half marathon. She wasn't a runner, just so that she could run it for her husband's birthday. Wow. And she crossed the finish line and she was crying and she hugged me. And she said, that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Wow.
And for me, that was one of those, going back to the beginning of this podcast, the power of moments. She doesn't know it, but that left a forever impression in my mind. And I will always remember that, because that's what it looks like when you commit to something and you see it through and then you see the results and you get emotional through it, because I never thought I could do this. What else can I do? You just won, right? So it all comes full circle, right? Yeah. We're talking power of moments. We're talking Tim Grover's winning. Like, all this shit applies to everything you do. And if you just implement it and you believe in it, you're going to see some big changes in your life.
You will. Nick, it's been an absolute honor chatting with you for the last hour. Just the utmost gratitude, appreciation for who you are, the energy you put out to the world. It's absolutely contagious. Big fan, consumer, advocate. I've seen the BPN merch at both the LA Marathon, clearly at the Go One More Marathon, and then most recently at the Boston Marathon. And anytime I'd see somebody, I'd see them with it, and I kind of get a little tap of the hat, and I'd say Nick Bear, and you could just feel the energy of what you've become to them, and so much of what the BPN logo means for other people. So just thank you from the bottom of my heart. And there's nothing more that I respect and appreciate than somebody's time. And as somebody as busy as you carving out the time to do this today, you have no idea. Moments. This is a powerful moment that I will be reflecting on for a long time. And I very much look forward to our paths crossing more in the future. I don't know when, but I'm just a big fan of everything you guys have brewing out in Austin and everything you represent, and just sincerely an honor, and best of luck at Buffalo. You are going to crush this sub 2 hour, 50-minute marathon. You are going to crush it, my man.
I appreciate you, man. Yeah, it was an honor meeting you in Austin. Like your energy, I could just tell. And I could tell before I met you, just based off of social media, your energy is just what I resonate with. And I feed off of that. I feed off people's energy. I feed off energy of a place. And it's just refreshing when you can meet someone, like have a conversation, and you can tell that the only that's why I love podcasts, is when you're talking to someone on a podcast, there's no distractions. Nothing else matters. It's just like two people talking. And it's really hard to find that in the world now because everyone's always distracted. We're always distracted. So I always appreciate someone that can hold a conversation and like look me in the eye. I know we're on Zoom right now, but like at the marathon, you can look someone in the eye and there's no distractions. Like, this guy gets it. Yeah. So I appreciate you.
Man, absolute honor. Absolute honor. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed today's podcast, please screenshot this episode on whatever platform you're listening in on, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, you name it. Post this podcast to your IG story. Let us know, what was the biggest takeaway? How did this episode change your perspective? We dove into a lot of different topics. I'd be very curious to know, what did you learn from this episode? Tag Nick. He's at Nick Bear Fitness on IG. You can tag me at Bobbbaaaay. That's B-O, 3 B's, 4 A's, and a Y. Let us know what the biggest takeaway was. Also linked up below, I will have BPN, his website. You can go check out all of their products. I will have Nick's personal TikTok, YouTube, IG. Definitely go listen to, if you're listening right now, you're a fan of podcasting, so you need to go check out the Bear Performance Podcast. I'm a big listener of that every week, so please do that. And then also, if you like to read, I would highly recommend 25 hours a day. I read this about a year ago, and I need to reread it again because I know it'll hit differently. So please grab that on Amazon. I'll have that linked up below. Or is there an Audible version of the book?
There is.
Are you reading it?
I am.
Fire it off. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't expect anything less. Or listen to it if you are a listener. Is there anywhere else I should be sending listeners after the podcast?
No, that sounds great, man.
Great. Nick Bear, you're a legend. Thank you for the time. And it's been an honor to chat, brother.
Thanks, brother.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Bearded Man Podcast. See ya.